Got a 2005 GMC Sierra, and it's got a little tree damage. The grandson borrowed the grandfather's truck and took it for a stroll through the woods and rubbed it up against a tree. So he asked us to make some repairs on this. He only wanted the bed repaired and not the cab corner, so we're going to have to just do the bed now. I get the feeling he'll be back next week when the cab corner bugs him. Anyway, so we're going to start by putting it up on the lift this time and doing some lateral tension as well as some direct pulling. So I've got my post pulling machine. I've got a perfect pull underneath the rear wheel because I think that's a better option to laterally pull it to the back wheel. And I'm going to use the other post puller near the front wheel to pull the bed in the front wheel direction. And then we'll do some pulls, some straightforward pulls on the large section of the dent and put it under tension so that we can tap down on these huge crowns that we have, especially the one at the very top. It's got a pretty pronounced roll at the top of the damage. So we're going to get all set up here. It's going to take a little while, but it's very important to get set up correctly and make your pulls and make sure that everything's squared up and you've got your tabs all in a row and everything going in the right direction. I'm currently in my 29th year of repairing dents and damages here in southern Maine, and I also worked throughout many parts of New England, auctions and things in the early days, and basically settled on the South Portland area and concentrate on the same dealers I've been servicing their used cars for almost 30 years now. We're in our second shop here. I spent 14 years up on Broadway by the main mall in a one-bay shop. And a year ago, we decided to make the big move, get a bigger shop. We can get 3 or 4 cars in here and fight the cold, basically, and warm up the cars ahead of time before I start working on them. So we're just getting comfortable here the first year in our new shop. And I got my wife Kelly working with me now. She's doing all the social media stuff and scheduling. And she's also becoming quite a good tab puller, glue puller. She does a lot of the hail and acorn damage and does pillars and does a lot of setup work also. So we're trying to grow here at Southern Maine Hail and Dent. And we're also trying to attempt to do much bigger damages and save some panels in the process. So in this setup, we have some Cam Auto pull tabs on the right side of the dent, And I've got 4 of these post pullers on this frame machine, and I'm going to hook up those cam auto tabs to the post puller on the right side. The post puller in the middle is going to do the direct pulling, and we got a perfect pull, like I mentioned before, hooked up to some, I think they're Anson auto tabs. We were at the Montreal Cam Auto first inaugural competition in July of 2025, and we were able to watch that competition, and we saw these straps being used, so we purchased them and we glued them to the left side of the damage. We have the tire over the perfect pull, so it's in place, and I've got ratchet straps with tension pulling the damage to the left, as well as the post pulling to the right. So it takes a little bit of time to get set up. Sometimes you got to figure some problems out on how you're going to pull simultaneously. And I grabbed a Cam Auto claw and figured out how to grab these 2 tabs with one claw and pull with one of the coated yellow chains. So just bear with us. We're getting set up, and then all the fireworks are about to begin. Looks like I've got the lateral tension figured out here. I've got the posts in the perfect pull in the right position. I've got some straps on one side glued to the panel, and I've got some Cam Auto tabs on the other side, and I use their Cam Auto claw with a little bit of modification to grab both those tabs at the same time with my coated yellow chain and post puller on that side. Now I'm going to open up the valve so I can use that specific post to pull tight, and we're going to put this dent under some lateral tension, and then we're going to figure out what tabs to use for the straight on pulls. The next step is to flash the panel with a torch to get rid of any condensation so that the glue adheres to the panel and gets a good setup here for a good pull. I learned this method about 30 years ago, and it gets rid of any moisture, and there's a big difference in temperature from the 400-degree glue to the lukewarm panel. It does create some condensation, so this is a way to get rid of the flashing and condensation and make sure the tab sticks good. Going to make a collar adjustment. I got to align the chain and the tab up with the collar. And I'm actually going to use a ratchet strap to pull the second Cam Auto tab. I think they're key tabs. You use a rod and a claw to pull those two tabs straight on. So I'm going to align everything up. I'm going to check and make sure the lateral tension is tight enough and it's pulling it in both lateral directions. So now we've got the initial damage under tension, and I'm using a blending hammer and a secondary hammer to reach in safely and tap down on those crowns. And now we're jumping to the second setup. So I removed all the Cam Auto tabs and the lateral tension, and after the first initial pull and crown tap down, this is what we have. It's kind of a segmented dent, some ridges, some tension. So we're going to go after these areas with smaller individual tabs and do a lot of crown tapping here. A lot of blending and tapping and pulling this area under tension, and it makes the crowns tap down a lot easier. Now that the glue pulling is all done, we move on to tool selection, and we're going to fill in all the low spots and finish tapping. I love these Finesit tools. I've had them for about 5 years. Thank you to Tony and John for introducing me to these Finesit tools, the sharp tip tools. Factory hole for access, and just worked the heck out of that dent and got it very, very close here. So the only thing that bugs me now is that cab corner, and I'm hoping the customer returns soon to get that repaired. But he got his bed repaired, and it looks great. Saved the bedside.